think maybe I sit here. Buongiorno, Benvenuti al nostro workshop, al workshop dedicato al progetto ScentDia, un progetto su stimoli olfattivi e presenza robotica. Io sono Luisa Damiano, insegno filosofia della scienza all'Università Yulm di Milano e quindi sono la partner italiana di questo workshop e per questo faccio gli onori di casa oggi, introducendo innanzitutto i partner del progetto, quindi in primis Mari Velonaki, che è l'ideatrice del progetto e la primaria realizzatrice di questo progetto. Mari è un'artista, è una robotica, insegna Creative Robotics at the University of New South Wales a Sydney e ha voluto realizzare quest'opera con noi, quindi innanzitutto con Manos Gerakinis, che è un artista profumiere, un creatore di profumi di Atene. E poi ci sono io, mentre Manos ha curato la dimensione olfattiva del progetto che vedete descritto da questo sottotitolo, un progetto che ha a che fare con stimoli olfattivi e presenza robotica, io ho curato invece gli aspetti filosofici ed etici, essendo un filosofo della scienza, appunto. C'è stata molta attenzione mediatica negli ultimi giorni sul nostro progetto, credo ci sia una grande curiosità che forse è stata ulteriormente stimolata da questo cortometraggio artistico realizzato da John Gillis, un artista che lavora come Mari all'University of New South Wales, e quindi vorremmo iniziare a soddisfare questa curiosità parlandovi un po' di ScentDia, ma non soddisferemo tutta la curiosità perché ScentDia verrà presentata, il robot che avete visto in questo cortometraggio, verrà presentato questa sera in premiere mondiale al Museo della Scienza e della Tecnologia Leonardo da Vinci, qui a Milano, a partire dalle 19:30 e quindi vi lasciamo un po' di curiosità così se avete voglia potete raggiungerci lì questa sera. Ma vogliamo comunque soddisfare la curiosità di base e quindi dire che cos'è ScentDia. ScentDia è innanzitutto un robot, appartiene alla categoria dei robot sociali, ne parleremo tra un attimo, ma in quanto robot è innanzitutto un'opera d'arte, è parte di una serie robotica a cui Mari Velonaki lavora dal 2011 e che ha prodotto 3 diverse versioni del robot che vedete in questa immagine, un robot che si chiama Diamandini e come vedete ha un'estetica diversissima da quella del robot stereotipato a cui pensiamo tutti subito, ma al contempo come terza versione ScentDia è anche un robot portatore di una innovazione tecnologica che non ha precedenti nel campo dei robot sociali e che riguarda la dimensione olfattiva, cioè ScentDia è un robot che comunica con noi anche esprimendo degli stimoli di carattere olfattivo, rendendoci consapevoli della sua presenza quando si avvicina attraverso degli stimoli olfattivi. In questo workshop vi presenteremo oggi quelle che sono le principali dimensioni che si intrecciano in questo robot, che sono la dimensione dell'arte robotica, ve ne parlerà Mari nella parte clou di questo workshop, quindi la parte finale. C'è poi una dimensione di arte profumiera, di cui ci parlerà Manos Gerakinis, subito dopo una breve introduzione che riguarderà il posizionamento filosofico ed etico che abbiamo assunto nello sviluppare questo progetto e che prevede anche una breve introduzione filosofica ai robot sociali per farvi capire di che tipo di tecnologia stiamo parlando. Per chi non ha una buona esperienza con la filosofia alle spalle vi prometto una cosa molto veloce e molto semplice. Quindi cosa sono i robot sociali? I robot sociali sono robot di nuova generazione, abbiamo iniziato a costruirli circa una ventina di anni fa, ma ancora sono nel processo di costruzione e perfezionamento e quindi iniziano adesso a entrare nei nostri contesti sociali e sono robot che sono chiamati sociali perché comunicano con noi attraverso segnali sociali compatibili con i nostri. Quindi i segnali sociali che finora questi robot esprimono sono gesti, sguardi, parole, espressioni facciali e stiamo iniziando a utilizzarli come mediatori terapeutici ed educativi, per esempio per bambini con bisogni speciali, in particolare bambini autistici, ma anche per anziani in perdita di autonomia. Li usiamo come supporto in attività mediche, in attività infermieristiche, in attività di marketing, in attività di accoglienza alberghiera. Iniziamo ad avere dei robot domestici che hanno queste caratteristiche sociali, robot babysitter, robot maggiordomo. Quindi sono i robot che abbiamo immaginato innanzitutto nella science fiction e che attraverso i laboratori di robotica, ma anche di robotica artistica come quello di Mari, e da oggi consente anche nei laboratori di arte profumiera, iniziano a fare il loro ingresso nei nostri contesti sociali. Parlando appunto della science fiction, è interessante cercare di vedere qual è il rapporto tra la science fiction e la robotica sociale di oggi, perché il rapporto è molto molto profondo. Lo stesso termine robot è un termine che non è nato nell'ingegneria, non è nato in ambito scientifico, ma è nato nella science fiction. E il primo a introdurre questo termine infatti è stato uno scrittore ceco, Karel Čapek, in un dramma teatrale di orientamento science fiction che si chiama RUR, i robot universali di Rossum. È stato scritto nel 1920, messo in scena nel gennaio del 1921 a Praga, ed è un dramma teatrale che ci immagina capaci di costruire delle copie biochimiche di noi stessi. Immagina Rossum, questo scienziato, capace di costruire dei robot biochimici fatti di materiale chimico come noi, ma artificiale, e che sono sostanzialmente delle copie di noi. E poi qui in RUR, in questo dramma teatrale, emerge la trama che è quella dominante della science fiction, cioè noi siamo in grado di produrre delle copie, dei sostituti di noi. Sono dei soggetti di esperienza e di interazione come noi, ma noi li trattiamo come oggetti, loro si ribellano e noi ce la vediamo male. La robotica sociale, pur prendendo ispirazione dall'idea di robot introdotta in questo romanzo, perché qui in questo dramma teatrale, perché qui i robot sono già robot sociali, perché sono robot che comunicano con i nostri segnali sociali, hanno addirittura un'affettività come la nostra, pur ispirandosi a questo vuole costruire degli oggetti e costruisce degli oggetti elettromeccanici a cui però vuole dare lo status di soggetti di interazione per noi umani. Quindi non trattarli da meri oggetti, non trattarli neanche come persone o come esseri viventi, ma come qualcosa che sta nel mezzo, dei partner sociali artificiali per noi. Come fa la robotica sociale a costruire delle macchine che noi possiamo trattare come dei partner sociali? Si concentra sulla costruzione di quella che viene chiamata la presenza sociale di questi robot, che è la proprietà definitoria di questi robot, che è definita dalla robotica come la capacità di questi robot di generare in noi umani l'impressione di essere con qualcuno, l'impressione di essere con un altro, quindi con un'entità che ha dei tratti che sono quelli che condivide con i nostri partner sociali standard, che siano altri umani o che siano per esempio i nostri animali domestici. Quindi c'è un grande lavoro transdisciplinare, tante discipline collaborano con la robotica sociale per offrire a questi robot dei tratti dell'aspetto, ma anche del comportamento, in particolare il comportamento è importante, che fanno sì che noi interagiamo immediatamente con questi oggetti socialmente attraverso i nostri segnali sociali. E alla base di questo lavoro ci sono delle ipotesi scientifiche, cioè questi tratti e questi comportamenti vengono realizzati sulla base di ipotesi scientifiche. Quindi la robotica sociale combina delle pratiche di ingegneria e di scienza per realizzare presenze sociali credibili per questi robot. Sostanzialmente incorpora in questi robot delle ipotesi su di noi, su noi umani, e poi le testa valutando la qualità delle nostre interazioni con questi robot nei laboratori oppure addirittura nei contesti in cui questi robot vengono costruiti. Quindi sostanzialmente qui una piccola pillola di filosofia della scienza, ma poi passeremo all'arte profumiera, all'arte robotica. Sostanzialmente dobbiamo pensare alla robotica sociale non solo come un ramo dell'ingegneria, ma anche proprio come una scienza che ci dice qualcosa di noi umani, perché incessantemente testa delle ipotesi su di noi. E quindi una scienza che indaga in definitiva chi siamo e al contempo, poiché lo indaga inserendo nei nostri contesti sociali questi robot che sono dei modelli robotici di noi, delle nostre ipotesi sulla nostra socialità, ci chiede anche di interrogarci su chi diventeremo attraverso la diffusione di questa tecnologia e chi vogliamo diventare attraverso la diffusione di questa tecnologia. Perché questo tipo di tecnologia, se verrà diffusa secondo le linee della robotica sociale, le linee progettuali della robotica sociale, è un tipo di tecnologia che ci cambierà, cambierà il nostro modo di interagire innanzitutto con oggetti elettromeccanici, ma anche cambierà il modo in cui interagiamo gli uni con gli altri e il modo in cui ci pensiamo e ci esperiamo come soggetti di relazioni sociali. E un punto molto importante è che, a mio avviso, non possiamo prevedere i cambiamenti che questi robot porteranno, perché il processo stesso con cui capiamo meglio noi stessi, la nostra socialità e la nostra interazione con questi oggetti robotici è il processo con cui questi oggetti robotici, diffondendosi nei nostri contesti sociali, ci stanno già cambiando. Quindi dobbiamo essere aperti all'imprevisto, all'imprevedibile. Siamo davanti a un futuro che non è una semplice estensione del presente, ma è un futuro creativo e che dobbiamo cercare di orientare. La domanda quindi che si pone è se possiamo orientare questo futuro, questi cambiamenti che interverranno nel nostro futuro con la diffusione di questi robot in una direzione positiva, nella direzione di un nostro positivo autosviluppo. E l'aspetto centrale del progetto ScentDia, a cui Mari ha pensato, è avere una risposta positiva per questo. Possiamo farlo se facciamo dialogare i nostri saperi, se facciamo dialogare le nostre forme di creatività. E questo è il cuore del progetto ScentDia, che si basa su un posizionamento di filosofia della scienza che ci chiede di costruire questi robot come degli strumenti per capirci meglio e quindi orientare meglio le nostre trasformazioni. Ha anche un posizionamento etico molto specifico, perché noi non abbiamo voluto costruire dei sostituti, ma dei partner, e dei partner che siano dei connettori. Non vogliamo dei robot sociali che soddisfino tutte le nostre esigenze sociali, ma che anzi ci incoraggino alle nostre relazioni tra umani e a migliorare le nostre relazioni tra umani. E poi ovviamente c'è la componente artistica. Il progetto ScentDia è un progetto che vuole creare degli spazi in cui tutti noi possiamo esperire le tecnologie del futuro, in questo caso un robot del futuro, prima che siano diffuse nei nostri contesti sociali, in modo da avviare una riflessione. E è qui il nucleo quindi del progetto, quello che l'arte robotica, l'arte profumiera e la filosofia oggi vi portano, è questo robot assolutamente innovativo, perché il tipo di segnale sociale con cui comunica è un segnale inedito per la robotica ed è un segnale dato da stimoli olfattivi. Stimoli olfattivi che abbiamo pensato potessero essere non solo una firma che consenta a noi di riconoscere un nuovo tipo di agente artificiale nei nostri contesti sociali, ma possa essere particolarmente importante quando applichiamo la robotica a campi di assistenza, per esempio l'assistenza ai non vedenti o ai non udenti, che possono avere quindi trovare un canale privilegiato nella comunicazione olfattiva. Quindi lascio la parola allora a Manos Gerakinis, che vi descriverà come è stato il lavoro di costruire una firma olfattiva per un robot.
Thank you, Lisa. So for me it was a big challenge to deal with this project, because obviously, as most of you here know about perfumery, we do perfumes for people to like, for people to wear, and to create a perfume for a robot was a challenge on its own, but I do like challenges because life is boring otherwise. And obviously it's a conversation that somebody had to start at some point. And so it was one challenge, making a perfume for a robot, which is different to making a perfume for a person. And it raises a lot of questions, like where do you start from? Because there is no reference. And you have to set the barrier somewhere and a discussion to start. So this is the perfume that you're gonna experience in the afternoon is something unique, something that we wanted to make a statement and say it differentiates perfumery from what a person would like to wear and what a robot would like to wear. So it's something different. We don't want to imitate humans into robots, and we want to add a different sense. So it is a conversation that is going to start and it's going to be ongoing. So when Mari and I met and she proposed the project, and for me to start doing something, start the creation progressed, I had to sort of connect. So I'm going to give you a reference from my Big Fat Greek Wedding. When I started doing the reference, you know the movie and the Portokalos family and all of that. And they all start saying, well, everything started from the Greeks. Sorry. Okay. So when I've done my history check, I found that in Homer, in the Iliad, Hephaestus was the one who created gold maidens, which was the first robots, I would say, in the world. So they were like cleaners and stuff that will help the gods do, and they will be something like a robot. So they were not humans, but they will imitate humans. So I said, yes, there is a connection with me. It's because I'm obviously Greek, and it all comes from Greek, as I said. So robots are Greek as well to me. So I found the connection somewhere there. Well, I was trying to and find the creative process and started from somewhere. And then I thought, oh, yeah, you should change that because I forget, sorry. And then I thought, well, the robot has a story to say. It has a family of its own. It comes from Australia, and Australia has its own ingredients. Greece has its own ingredients. And so I started creating a family and a story for the robot and started to create what the perfume would be like. So we've got, and if you want me to give you an idea, it's a metallic scent. It's a smoky scent. It has ingredients that for me are connected with Australia, like sandalwood and cypriol, and, but there are also scents that are connected in ingredients to Greece, like oak moss, it gives the metallic scent, and citruses. But it's not floral, it's not animalic, it's not something that we wanted to be connected with a human being. So it's something completely unique. I'm going to leave it to secrecy, because obviously if I'm going to say more, there's not going to be a point for you to sense, and I want you to feel the experience in the afternoon. So I'm going to pass to Mari, and who's going to say about how we met, the story of ScentDia.
Check. Can you hear me? And the people at the back? Yeah, great. Well, I'm so happy today because I'm an ex-ant, right? And I must tell you, I like perfumes more than robots, and I design robots. So, you know, obviously I'm in the wrong profession, and too late to change. But I would like to start, before I tell you the story of how I met Manos and why we worked together, the same with Louisa, is about, I started designing my first robot in 2003. The first social robots in Australia. They called me the mother of social robotics in Australia, soon to be the grandmother, the way things go. That was a long time ago. I also ran the Creative Robotics Lab, which was the first interdisciplinary robotics laboratory in the world that equally you had artists, designers, psychologists, mechatronic designers, AI people. And why? Not because we wanted to be fancy or necessarily politically correct, because you need all these people, but because people are complex, right? Robots are easy. To make a machine is just, you know, it's difficult, but not even one, it doesn't have the challenge that we face about trying to understand the human condition and people, right? Between human-robot interaction or any human-machine interaction, the most difficult aspect is understanding the human. And I will start with the question I've been asking myself for the last 20 plus years. Do we have the robots that we deserve? No. Do we need robots? I really don't know. Maybe we don't. So as creative people, as researchers, as academia, industry, government, we need to create platforms that they feel safe, that we could develop things and test and explore and really critique, right? And one thing I'm trying not to do with my work is to be, and especially with this project, for example, that we thank you so much for all of you that you are here to explore with us. It's ScentDia, which is the final stage of the Diamandini series, the humanoid Diamandini. This is the world premiere here at the Da Vinci Museum for Science and Technology in 2025. And in this final stage, it's not about how nice the perfume is. I mean, I love the perfume, but that's a different conversation. Or how nice the robot is. Maybe the robot is not nice, and maybe the perfume is not something, the scent of ScentDia, scent of the robot that each person would like. Maybe no one would like the perfume or the robot. But you know what? That's quite okay. What is the important thing is for us to be able to engage and create new knowledge based on our understanding and preferences as society, not only as consumers. And although we love everything to become a product, right, we're all here because I think what we have in common is a process of creating something that explores. And again, it's a leap of faith that we try something that hasn't been tried before in perfumery, in robotics, in philosophy, in writing, in fashion, in art, and see what happens and understand, trying to understand how we can develop things better. So ScentDia started as Diamandini. It's an 11-year-old project, and the challenge was to create, my first robot was in 2003, so that ScentDia's first, Diamandini's first version was created as a sculptural piece, and it premiered at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London as part of the London Design Week. And the challenge there was to create something that it's a robot but looks like a sculpture. It's the first and only robot that I've created that has humanoid references. That means like not android science, but humanoid. You can see that it's a female representation of something. And for me, the challenge was to make it look an element of surprise, something that looks like a sculpture, initially installed at the Medieval and Renaissance Gallery at the Victoria and Albert, and then in different museums, and see how we develop movement, zones of acceptance. So it started almost like a kinetic sculpture. And the next version of Diamandini was Diamandini Revisited in Conversation, and it was a more performative piece that we developed with my team last year for the new national. It was a commission piece for the National Communication Museum in Melbourne, Australia. And in this version, we gave her a voice based on the first sound distribution with 23 speakers inside here, not voice as speech, language, but more like a musical. We created a sonic soundscape for her. So we started exploring movement and then different sounds, and it was in conversation with the original mechanical Australian speaking clock that people up to the 80s used to call to tell the time. So it was very site-specific. This is the final closing project, the ScentDia, and it's adding another element, and that of scent, and scent as presence. And that is our testing bed, I guess, ScentDia, if I could say that, of how scent can be used in robots in general. Not that scent and not that robot, but the idea of what scent means as a present and what constitutes presence in something non-organic. So this was, for me, something extremely important. Also, you know, we can all agree or disagree that we need robots, we don't need robots, we don't know if we need or not robots. But the truth is, outside of this room, these developments are happening as we speak. People around the world invest billions in robotics in your homes, for our schools, for our nursing homes. But it's up to us to choose elements that they might enhance not only our experience, if we need to interact with them, but maybe enhance our humanity or make them much more friendlier instead of a user manual, what we would like, you know, to be, what are the characteristics that we'd like to embed in a machine that could be our core worker or assistive or whatever you would like to call it. Depends on the situational context, of course, right? So with saying this, other than my own love and addiction with niche perfumes and perfumes in general, it's the other thing. When something approaches you, like as robots, shared spaces with people, social spaces, there are people that they cannot hear very well, or people that they cannot see very well, or people that are busy. We sense, even subconsciously, someone approaching us, right? Just because of the way they smell. So having a smell, it would be, we think, a useful, not only because of the power of olfactory as a communication and what it can evoke in different scenarios, but also this element of mechanical presence, I'm here, I'm coming. Now, I would like to say that social robotics, it is, and I think that's what your presentation, Luisa, started. It's by definition cross-disciplinary, okay? It's not because we need to be nice or politically correct. We need different people with different expertise and different voices that we all work together. So, but again, something that is not only these kind of collaborations, because it's robotics, they last for years, and it cannot be something that it's a mere exchange of skills. So, for example, when I met with Manos, it was because I love his work, but when I went to meet his atelier, I didn't go there to talk about a robotic project, to be honest. I was just meeting a perfumer that I enjoy his work at his atelier. A few years later, actually, after I discovered his work, it just happened to be in Athens after many years, and I thought it was an opportunity. And to be honest, like, and we always say that with Manos, there are many, many perfumers that I love their work, and some of them are here as well, and we talk about this. But there was a moment of talking to him that we clicked, and it was a moment away from art, robotics, perfumery, that we could communicate like people, that I felt safe to start sharing things about him, although I didn't plan to. So it was a personal, inspirational comfort zone that I felt, like this kind of connection. We started talking about this, and very similar it was with Louise. And when we met was it Abu Dhabi? It was a conference, invitation only, about robotics, and again, there were many incredible presenters, but there was something about Louisa when she started talking about robo-ethics and being polemical and ask some really interesting questions, them having drinks with her afterwards, that it was about, you know, how do we work with people? It's not always you've got this skill, they've got this skill, I need you because you can do this. So that's how this collaboration in ScentDia over 2.5 years now, together with our teams, was created. And I don't want to say anything else other than invite you to come to the Da Vinci Museum and experience it by yourself, and maybe open it to the floor if you have any time left for questions. And the most interesting things happen when people ask questions, and then we can think. And well, thank you again.
So, any questions? Please.
Thank you. What was the inspiration behind deciding that a robot might like something metallic? I still understand metallic, but the other notes that you talked about, something citrusy, for example. So what was the inspiration behind it? How do you come to that conclusion?
Well, I had to connect with the project, and obviously a robot is something that has never been done before, and I've never done that sort of art, and I like artistic collaboration, so I had to connect with it. And the thing is, when you create the first reference to something, you just need to set the basis. It's an open discussion. I didn't make a perfume for people to like, for people to wear. That you can go to the brand and you can try different things. But here, it's setting a reference to what I think it's very subjective, to what I think a perfume for a robot should be. We hear like 400 brands. If you ask every single one of them to make a perfume for a robot, they will make something completely different, which is okay, because it's an open discussion. It's something that only starts, and it's great because it gives us this opportunity for all of us to get into this discussion and change the perfume from something that today we said, and we say it's this, then people say maybe it should be something different. But my thinking, and from my study of robots, because obviously I had no idea about robots, you know, I didn't know anything about social robotics. I didn't know anything about the art from Mari. So it's the connection between three completely different disciplines getting into something and making a starting point that I assume, and I would love in 10 and 20 years to have something completely different and completely new, and still talking about it. And it raises also and always the moral issue: how close to us should the robots be, and in one way or another, we made the decision that they should not be the same as people. So for me, I connected and I put my DNA and I put the Greek DNA because of Homer and from what I could see in the robot, which is like a Greek kori, like a statue from Greece. So I put that into the first DNA, and I put Australia's DNA because the robot actually came from there. And the secret ingredients that I'm not going to say, and we're not going to reveal the whole pyramid and ingredients, obviously, because you need to come and sense it. And then I would expect your feedback and come and tell me what do you think and what would you change or what would you expect. Because as I said, it's an open discussion. It only starts.
And it's an evolution. It's the evolution of our co-evolution with robots. So please, come and let us know what you think.
Also, something that maybe it's of interest, it wasn't to come to decide on one, how she should smell. There was trials, and some very different, some had more flow. So it was almost like few compositions at what would be right for that robot. And in a bit like this kinetic sculpture, this work, what would complement it? So we had different trials as well. So that's important in the journey. It wasn't...
I mean, when Okmos got in the metallic bit, it was almost, it just felt good that it was there without me realizing that the metallic would actually be perfect for the robot. And the smoke that was inspired from Australia and Greece at the same time, it was like, oh, it's perfect. It suits the robot and the project, so let's leave that. And we tried florals, and then we said, no, we don't want to resemble a flower because that's too natural. So something different. You're welcome.
Other questions?
Oh, no.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. And I really don't even know how to phrase it, but, and forgive me if you explained it in Italian before and I didn't understand correctly, but tell me more about the robot. Like, I'm curious, what is the personality of the robot? What does the robot do? What is the day of the robot? And because I think that would help me understand more about the fragrance that's associated to the robot and what its purpose is.
I'm not sure if I'm the right person to...
I'm married. Yes, so as I said before, and maybe I will try to put too many components in few sentences. The robot was like to me kinetic sculpture. So within social robotics, it was part of cultural robotics. So originally it was created as a more advanced version of a kinetic sculpture for the Victoria and Albert Museum. So for me, I don't know if you're not familiar with my robotic work like Fishbird, or usually they're much more abstract, but they always have narratives and personal stories, and 90% would be within some sort of a cultural museum context. So the Amandini was, again, and it's so important to say, not didactic, just what if a robot would look like a sculpture, and you will put it to share space and navigate kinetically within public spaces. We've learned a lot about that, right? We've got a lot of data, more than 40,000 interactions with people from the V&A alone and other museums. Even basic things. What's the comfort zone of a person with something that looks like a sculpture and moves with you? Your comfort zones. What about the feel? Do you touch it? Is it too hard? Does it respond to it? So that was the very first as a sculpture. The second one, it was the sound. That was the second development. And the third one was the scent. And something I didn't mention in social robotics is we still communicate outside of the cultural sphere so much with commands, with speech to text, with voice. And not everything is necessary this way. I believe actually the things that we have not explored, and maybe they're more interesting, are the non-direct communication, like smell, sound. In terms of the movement in robotics, it started movement as navigation, and now we started talking in cultural robotics about affective movement, right? How this sculpture comes to you. You can call it kinetic sculpture robot. And why it's robot? Because it has a system, because it can learn a space, because its vision system can see how many people are in the room. That's the difference of a kinetic sculpture. If you think about it, it's just a little bit of an evolution. It's nothing new from the previous century. And we have such a rich history of kinetic sculpture. It's just now we have a tool set to make them do a little bit more and explore, right? So still it's based, think of it as a sculpture and think of it as, because it's an experimental work, it's not a product, that we learn back to the drawing board. How do we share cultural spaces like a museum, like with something that moves? What's comfortable when what it's not about its presence? This is so representational, which is very unlike my other work, that kind of, but again, it's not because I think this is the way we should do. Take Diamantini, take ScentDia, put you in a nursing home with a scent. No, my God, that would be, you know. So it's more like this kind of exchange of, let's use cultural as shared spaces to find out about what we are comfortable with. The same thing with the scent, right? Scent has a presence in a robot. Now you can smell something that it physically moves. And actually she's 155 centimeters, so it has a reasonable, the size is a big thing. We all know that. But in terms of if you have a small robot on the floor, it's not that easy, you know, difficult to negotiate. You're just trying to avoid it. But if you have something that it's fairly big and has a presence, you like it, you dislike it, we ignore it, but you cannot ignore that something moves towards you. So this kind of, that kind of exploration of movement and sound and now scent, what constitutes presence, and are we aware of this presence? It's part of some of the themes that I would like to explore. And hopefully with all these things we learn what we like, what we don't like, or what to do better. And some of these elements we transplant in technologies of the near future. So that's, I don't know if I answered this, I'll try to put it, yeah.
Other questions? Curiosities?
Well, I suppose they're excited to see the perfume and the robot in the afternoon.
Yes.
And I could add, there was a robot, okay, there was a robot that it's some sort of a cleaning machine, cleaning robot, right? So it's just a platform. And it's interesting because they did a version that when it finishes cleaning, it sprays, okay? So it's almost like an air freshener in the room, which I think is wonderful because it's the smell as communication, I finished the job. But because we need to acknowledge that what we try to do here, it's not I finish the job, it's I'm here, I'm coming to you. I leave a sillage, like I leave a trail, and you don't have to like me, but this is who I am, and this is where I am, and yeah, that's the interesting part.
It's a new kind of connection with machines that is rooted in our evolutionary history, because a primary sense and form of interaction for us is the olfactory interaction. Socially, the olfactory dimension for us humans is very important. So we are trying to use this as a new kind of connection with a new kind of entity that is not simply an object to manipulate, is not a tool, is not a subject like us, is not a living creature, it's something in between. And so this serves an olfactory signature to distinguish it from all the rest, so that we can create an identity for this new robotic thing that will not overlap with our identity in our social context. So this is the idea. So exploiting something that is very important for us in our interactions to create a positive interaction with an artificial partner that can help us in many things, also assist blind people, for example, but with a signature, distinguish its identity from our identity. So we are also trying to create really a new social artificial species that can co-evolve with us.
Oh, sorry.
We think, I don't know if this generated new questions. If not, we hope you will be curious and come to meet ScentDia this evening at 7:30. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, everyone, and for your questions.